discussion on Zoom earlier this evening, I am more closely in touch with Ashley Glass because I've known her for a long time, respected her in her work as an activist, peace and justice activist in Kalamazoo. So I responded to her emails to me in regard to how she felt about the process as being used to hire a township manager or superintendent. And I felt that what she was proposing made a lot of sense. I feel that she was able to speak about things that I cared about, that you planned this well, that you proposed a good process, that you follow through, you make it transparent, and involve the public, and don't try to rush through this the way it sounds like you are. We can disagree on these things, you know, and we can be honest. I love honesty. And so I'm very glad to be here to tell you that I hope that you'll follow the honest, transparent way of hiring this very important person who will be our next manager, so that we won't have the problem that we had faced earlier, dismissing someone and not knowing anything about what happened then. I love the idea of a newsletter. I'm so glad that you are all agreeing that that's very important. Thank you all for what you do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to count off now, so anybody who wants to go potty can go. Yeah, but you might have to wait till we get to the regular meeting. So you got a chance at the first part of the meeting. So anybody needs to go.
I know.
I need to at least stand up.
Will you let her know that we'll start the next meeting with the
Yeah.
public comment? Okay.
When we start the next meeting, you'll have a chance to speak. Okay?
You good? I gotta get my keys too. My phone is fine. My legs have added. And that, I know that wasn't directed at you. You know what? We're okay. We can agree. We're sitting all day with each other. And you know it's all good. You're fine. I know. I felt you going there. I was trying to reel it in. I know it wasn't. I'm not worried about that. All right. We made it through that part. We
Yeah. When do you come back? You're on vacation. When do you come back?
first of May.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gone all of April then.
had to go outside. My legs.
And good evening. Welcome to the Board of Trustees regular meeting for Charter Township at Kalamazoo, March 11th, 2024. It's supposed to be 7:30 and 7:32. And the first thing to do is the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee, Mark, would you do it for us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, all board members are present. And the next thing is any additions or deletions from the agenda.
I just had one
Okay.
question, and I emailed this to Trustee Miller, but late this afternoon, so if you have not received my email, I understand. Okay. I'm sorry, Treasurer Miller.
I did not receive your email, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe because of that, just because I would have to further discuss, and I just wanted to discuss a little bit about the treasurer's report, and maybe so it may be most proper to move it from the consent agenda, just so I can discuss it. Because otherwise, I'm going to keep on talking, and then I'm breaking the rule.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay? We can pull it off and go from the consent agenda. We'll move it down to
10A,
to what?
10A.
10A? Okay. Okay, any other additions or deletions? Okay, seeing none. Now is the first time on the regular agenda for public comment. You have 3 minutes. Please come to the podium. Give us your name and where you live.
Hello, my name is Hannah Joseph. I live at 2316 Brook Drive, and I wanted to address some offhand comments that were made during your work session, specifically in relation to discussion of a public newsletter, for one. Trustee Glass, I really appreciate your idea to reinstate the newsletter. I think transparency and honesty with the community is incredibly important. Also, offhand comment about the website. It does need to be revamped. And Trustee Ludi, you said there is someone on staff whose job is to do the website. You might need to have a talk with that person because the website is not great. But anyway, when Trustee Glass brought forward the idea of a newsletter, Trustee Miller, you said, I think that's a good idea. I'm just surprised at your ability to do all this. You're a parent and you have a full-time job. And I actually think that was incredibly inappropriate. I think that alludes to someone's capacity to be able to fulfill their job with having a full-time job, their duty as a trustee to the community with having a full-time job, but then also with parenthood. And I think those sorts of comments are often directed towards women, and I do not think that's appropriate to make a comment about someone's capacity, even if you do agree with doing the newsletter, to say that because they're a parent, you wonder how they'd be able to fulfill that. I believe if Trustee Glass said we should do a newsletter and I'm willing to help with that, then that should be trusted and respected rather than questioned. I don't think that was appropriate. And then Supervisor Martin, I noticed, again, while Trustee Glass was discussing like the appropriate order of events for bringing on a new staff person, Trustee Glass was talking and then you interrupted her and like held up your hand to keep her, like to stop her from talking. And I also think that was incredibly disrespectful and inappropriate behavior. I think those sorts of comments and that sort of behavior perpetuates voices being shot down and people choosing not to speak up when something is important. And also with the whole job thing, it doesn't make sense. Like, the order has been like put in a
Okay,
blender.
your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Andrew Chaponda. I live at 3522 Devonshire Avenue in the township. I was a little bit disturbed actually when I listened to the video of your last meeting. Anytime that a leader leaves an organization can be very traumatic to the employees of that organization at all levels. But for a board to decide to impose someone from without consultation can be even more traumatic. The question becomes, what is this guy? What is the deal that is making with the board? Is this a transparent deal? Does the board have some nefarious intents further down the line? Who is this person that the board wants to impose? So I thank very much Trustee Glass, Robinson, and others who spoke so forcefully in support of making this a transparent process. This is 2024, and for anyone to want to lead an organization without telling the board that there is a way of hiring senior managers at all levels, that is not a very good employee. They are easily willing to compromise their ethics, not only among you as the board, but the public as well. You need to be very wary of employees who want to go along with not so transparent ways of hiring at this very senior level. I heard that I was in this chamber before when the former manager, Mitchell, was being stripped of his personal responsibilities when he fired the former battalion chief and the fire chief. I was sitting here today when we were again trying to lump all the responsibilities to the new manager, something that was called a push and pull of responsibilities among these senior officers. It also smacks of some racist approach that you took away responsibilities from a black manager. Now you have your white guy. You want to give this position, you bring back all these responsibilities. That can also be illegal in a way. And last but not least, this person cannot be all and everything. This is a township. This person needs to have people at senior levels in those 3 core departments who advise him. You cannot hire a high school to lead the finance department because you have a superstar manager. You are going to have the people who are trained at the right level, paid the right salaries
Your 3
to
minutes
assist
up,
this
sir.
guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Ed St. Peter. I live on Campbell Avenue. Tonight, my wife and I just happened to watch the Zoom meeting for the first time ever. And it's always fascinating to watch your local government and how they interact with one another. And I appreciate that. Now, one big impression I had at the meeting, whether it's right or wrong, dealt with transparency of the meeting, whether it's a manager or a superintendent. I just didn't get it, and it sounded to me like there's a transparency issue and a faction issue on this board. And that's all I'll say about that. And then the other thing, I had to chuckle about this newsletter. If you have issues with your website, what makes you think that your monthly newsletter would be that informative? It would become stale awfully fast. In discussions with my wife, it would seem to me if you're going to do one, and it's great that you do one, you start it off on quarterly basis as opposed to monthly. That way people have time to gather the facts that they want to put in a clear, organized manner, as opposed to feeling forced to get something down for a newsletter and then it shortly it becomes ineffective and disappears. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. David Combs, 2316 Brook Drive. And please bear with me while I try to pack in my comments from the work session and this meeting into 3 minutes. First, I greatly appreciate that the Public Media Network was invited to cover tonight's meeting, but I also noticed they've been absent during recent meetings, especially those that involve important or potentially contentious decisions, including the most recent meeting. Please invite the Public Media Network to cover every meeting of the Board of Trustees. This transparency is vital for residents who are looking for this coverage. Second, I wanted to address the meeting agenda. The agenda for tonight's meeting was made available just Friday afternoon, leaving minimal time for trustees, not to mention residents, to adequately prepare for participation. It's crucial for transparent and inclusive governance that the agenda is released well enough in advance to allow for good faith work amongst you, the board, and meaningful public engagement from us. The agenda request forms state that agenda items for request must be submitted no later than noon the Thursday preceding the next regular board meeting. As a matter of practice, then, please release agendas by the end of the day on Thursday. And finally, I am troubled by the order of agenda items today, no fewer than 4 of which you discussed earlier, address the hiring of a township manager or superintendent, or intendant, which we're moving to. If we look to Robert's rules, however, under the section on main motions, we find, apart from a motion to rescind or to amend something previously adopted, no main motion is in order that conflicts with a motion previously adopted at any time and still in force. Also, under the section on improper motions, it says motions are also improper when they present practically the same question as a motion previously decided at the same session. Thus, for our agenda today, the outcome of items 9B and 9C could feasibly determine the outcome for items 9H and 9I preemptively if they were in order in the first place, which they would not be under Robert's rules. Given that, please give more consideration to your agendas as you develop them for each meeting, and keep in mind that simply compiling the agenda items sometimes doesn't on its own get the job done. And then finally, on those items 9, B, C, H, and I today around hiring a superintendent for the township, I had hoped that the PAC committee would return after the last meeting a job description written with specificity and confined to the role, keeping in mind that at the last meeting, the board did not ask the PAC committee to draft a job description for a finance director or a personnel director, nor has the board combined those positions as of yet. I did hope that the PAC committee would return content more along the lines of what Trustee Glass provided as guidance. An option to hire an interim manager to ease the very valid concerns of timeliness, a clear candidate evaluation form, sample questions, and so on, information that you've all seen. My question, unlike the question raised during the work session, is not why did Trustee Glass bring those materials to the table, or should she have, but why didn't the PAC committee, who also had the same amount of time to do the same amount of work? This is local government, and we have to show our work. Much like our early years in K-12 education. And finally, much has been made of respect and disrespect this evening. And one of the things that I find very disrespectful, personally, is when false information or incorrect information is used to invalidate my arguments. And so in that spirit, I looked something up on the website, which I was able to use on my phone this evening. There's a PDF downloadable called Committees, Boards, and Commissions Lists, on which the PAC committee does list the fire chief and police chief as members, right alongside with no delineation from the 3 members of the trustees sitting before me now. And so I'd ask you, please correct that record. There's no specification of whether or not those members are voting members, but they are listed as members for public information. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, please.
Somebody told me to speak from my heart today because I wasn't really sure how to come at you today. So my name is Tony Kennedy. I live at 1114 Arthur Avenue. I had never been to a work session before, so I was really pleased to come and listen to the information that was provided. And I came here of one opinion, and I'm leaving with a different one. And that's, that's the process. So I have been here, I've come a lot. You guys know I support I yell and scream when I need to yell and scream. I call you out. I call a spade when I need to. But we have been without a supervisor for a long time. And regardless of what's happening in the office, I have come in, I have said hi, I have brought candy, but sometimes morale is what it is, okay? And sometimes we need to move forward. Honestly, I heard everybody. And to speak to David, I actually found public media networks recording of the last township meeting, which I went looking for and jumped in their case because I was like, how do you not be there? And the gentleman was kind enough, his name is Max Reese, he sent me the link, and it was for that meeting. So, you know, people will tell me things, and I will go and do the research and do the homework. So, where I came here not supporting moving forward on the superintendent's position, and we do need to say superintendent or manager. We just need to say that now, because every time it's getting confusing in my head and everyone else's head. I would like to move forward. I'd like my vote as a resident of the township who does frequent this meeting and who has been supportive to move forward on what the PAC committee has decided. We have a committee that you guys all put together that is supposed to move you forward and give you job descriptions, etc. They made the decision of how to move forward in the job description, and then they actually put together what you had suggested, Ashley, Lieutenant Trustee Glass, and incorporated, that's the word I was using. And so I think that it's really important for us to take a look at what the process is and what the process is right here in the township and move forward with next steps, because really we should not wait any further. The other thing, as far as the newsletter is concerned, if there is someone that is supposed to do the newsletter, that might be some way to be positive and to engage the administrative personnel to do the things that they were hired to do. So maybe you might consider a intern or someone from Western that maybe can come and support too. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Anybody else, please? Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom that would like to speak to the board, please unmute yourself and you will have 3 minutes to speak to the board. There's 8 on Zoom and nobody's raising their hand or
Okay.
unmuting themselves.
Let's move down to the consent agenda then, please.
Okay.
We moved the consent agenda.
Not the whole consent agenda, just one item. Yeah.
We moved the treasurer's report.
Yeah.
So I'll move adoption of the consent agenda consisting of the approval of the minutes of the January 8th, 2024 Board of Trustees work session meeting, the minutes of the January 8th, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting, the minutes of the January 22nd, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting, payment of the bills in the amount of $63,720.96. Additionally, receipt of the CABA report of February 2024, check distribution of February 2024, and the check EFT register of February 2024.
I will support the motion.
Your motion made and supported. Go ahead to support the consent agenda. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, there is no public hearing, there is no old business, so we go right down to new business, and the first one is request to approve the next-gen construction to construct non-motorized improvement. Trustee Ludi.
Well, thank you. We were hoping our township, one of our township engineers, Ryan Russell, would be here today. This is much of his work, so I will step in to try to explain things, and he provided a lot of guidance to the township in that he created a request for proposals that garnered 4 or 5 contractors, where last year we could not get any contractors to be excited about the township sidewalk work and other non-motorized work. But this year must be a sign of the evolution of COVID's effect on the marketplace, on the construction industry, that we had a good and a competitive pricing. And all those documents, I should say, because we believe in open transparency, are all available on the webpage. They include the RFP, the request for proposal. They include the letter that the engineer sent to our supervisor with his recommendation, and it includes the five contractors who responded, and then it includes all the information that all their bidding prices results and the specifications that the engineer provided for those companies to bid on. So there's lots of good meaty material, and their recommendation, our Pine and Newhoff, our engineer firm, recommends that we, and I'll make this a motion, that the board, we move to approve that Next Gen Construction to construct $307,982.50 of non-motorized improvements in 2024.
Support.
Okay, motion made and supported to go ahead to approve the 2024 non-motorized transportation. Trustee Glass.
I just wanted to ask, because it says that some of the money, or the money would be coming from the ARPA fund. Is this the money that we already approved for sidewalk work? Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because the budget had $90,000 to do the work, and I made a proposal months ago for $200,000 of ARPA money, because we sense that ARPA really ties to with the need during COVID of people to get out and be able to exercise. So sidewalks were a great way of doing that, and I think it was led by Treasurer Miller, said we should do $300,000 from ARPA. The board agreed, and so this is a combination of the $300,000 from ARPA, and the $90,000 that was originally budgeted. Yeah, so thanks for asking.
Anybody else?
I just want to say I'm really, really pleased that we're going to be investing in sidewalk improvements. It's been a big discussion during our tenure on this board, so I'm glad we're making it happen.
Thank you.
At least I assume we might.
Thank you, Steve. I mean, I know that I helped you a little bit on this, but Ryan, I should say, was our engineer, and one of the nice things about it is all the information is here, what the bids were, what streets they're working on, what sidewalks they're repairing. So it's all here. You can get off the website. So, thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to call the question to go ahead and approve the contract for 2024 non-motorized transportation for $307,982.50. And we'll start off with Trustee Glass.
Aye.
Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Clerk Mackey.
Aye.
Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you. Okay, the next one is approve the superintendent's job description. Trustee Miller, do you want to lead us on that, because you had some changes you were going to do in that?
Yes, thank you. So I will make a motion to adopt the township superintendent job description, and if I receive a second, I would like to speak to the motion.
Support.
So we had a very long and involved discussion over this in our work session, and we did come up with several items that I want to propose. I don't know that I have captured all of them. Others may, speak up, but I will move to amend the job description by adding the following items, which are from the materials that Trustee Glass provided. Provide leadership for township operations, creating an inclusive and supportive organizational culture for employees. And that would I believe, go immediately under the heading, the bullet point of the Personnel Director. Facilitate regular thoughtful reviews of township staff following best practices in human resources. That would also go under that Personnel Director heading. Ensure township website and communication channels are effective, updated, and consistent. And that would be added as a second sentence to the second bullet point on the third page of the draft job description. So those are my proposed amendments. I would, if that receives a second, I believe we should vote on the amendments. If there are further amendments, we can take those up.
I'll do the second on the amendments. Okay. Where are we at?
Well, I didn't know if we wanted to include this, but I wanted to address it. We had discussed Trustee Glass's permanent superintendent position overview and using that as part of our hiring materials.
Right, I think that was going to be like a cover letter or added sheet. Correct, Mark? All right.
Yes, I believe we had not discussed, we did not intend to include that as part of the job description.
Right. It was just
So I wasn't sure when we should bring it up, but.
No, go ahead.
In my opinion, that's a separate matter.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Trustee Glass?
I really think that we should not be posting a position that is intended to, cover 3 positions. And I don't think this job description clearly states that. And I don't think our post is very clear because we're saying, depending on experience, we'll pay you, maybe we'll pay you this. And we haven't agreed on a salary. So, I don't agree that the PAC actually met to do this. I still have a problem with the fact that the 2 chiefs were not included in that meeting or discussion because as a member of the public brought up earlier, it pretty clearly states that the PAC consists of the 2 chiefs and the 3 elected officials. So I don't think that that was actually followed in the way that the board was understanding it was happening from our last meeting. Those are just some of the issues that I have with this.
Anybody else?
I would just say that I've had similar concerns about, the fact that the fire chief and police chief maybe weren't in the room. So I've personally taken it upon myself to really pay close attention to this, and so I'm comfortable voting on it, bearing in mind that I've had conversations with both our fire chief and our police chief. Maybe not about this job description, but about organizational needs. And so I just wanted to add that comment.
Thank you. Trustee Miller, you had your hand up.
Mr. Supervisor, I think it would be appropriate to vote on the amendments that were proposed
Okay.
and then continue with debate on the main motion.
Okay. Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and vote on the amendments to the job descriptions, correct? And any other comments before I vote? Okay. We'll start off with Clerk Mackey.
Aye.
Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Glass.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thank you. Okay. Now we go back to where we were. Got a motion on the floor to go ahead to move this forward. And I'll go ahead and we'll call the question, and we'll start off with,
Oh, I don't think we're done with discussion yet.
pardon?
Are we done with discussion?
I thought we had discussion on it earlier.
We were just talking about, it wasn't my understanding that the discussion had ended.
Okay, okay,
So
all right.
let's just- If the people still have comments, I think we
Okay.
should hear
Yeah,
them
that's
out.
fine, okay. Go ahead. Trustee Glass.
I just wanted to say that because I understood or somehow figured out that the chiefs were not going to be in attendance in that meeting, I also took it upon myself to have conversations with them and felt very comfortable with the proposals I put forward despite those conversations. Or, I guess, with those conversations.
Thank you. All right.
I'll just reiterate that any conversation that I've had, I didn't get any kind of endorsement for either way moving forward from either our police chief or our fire chief. And I wouldn't put them in a situation where, as they report to this board, I'm not going to do that to them and ask them to take a stance on it. But I just wanted to make myself available.
Thank you. Anybody else? Trustee Looney.
I don't want to forget and thank the PAC for meeting the 3 board members that are the voting members of the PAC. The chiefs are not voting members. That's a distinction maybe not everyone understands. But the 3 board members took their responsibility from the previous meeting where the board voted to charge the PAC with coming up with a job description and a salary range. And they did their job and then continued in a democratic, open environment by providing that in the board packet and discussion continuing tonight. So continuing that transparency and the democracy. And now we have the product of voting on this again. And so it's all due to the hard work of the PAC.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll go. Treasurer Miller.
Thank you. Yes, it is due to the hard work of the PAC, but we also saw that there were some things in Trustee Glass's proposal for superintendent that we included in the job description. So it is collaboration of the entire board, and I appreciate the work that was done to bring this forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the question, and we'll start off with Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Mackey.
Clerk, yeah.
Clerk.
Aye.
I mean Clerk Mackey, I'm sorry. I'm looking at you, Mark, here. Let's go ahead. Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Glass.
No.
And I'm aye, thank you. Okay, the next one here is a request to approve the posted superintendent's job and proposal timeline. I'm going to ask Trustee Robinson if you want to go ahead and say something on this.
Yes, thank you. I brought forth basically a timeline to try and move us forward. I know that this is not the opinion of everyone up here, but at this point, I think that something needed to be done to push this forward once we got a job description that we could agree on for the most part to be able to get that job description out immediately, as many people are waiting to see what we're going to do as a board. I would like to say that in the work session, Clerk Mackey brought up a timeline as far as my timeline, which has the job being able to be posted tomorrow on all suitable platforms, as soon as tomorrow. Getting that job description out there on social platforms, MTA, Michigan Township Association. I spoke on some other ones. I put a list, and it is not on here, and I apologize for that to my board members that do not have that, and also to the residents that don't see it. But many different platforms, some of which mimicked platforms that are in Trustee Glass's proposal as well. I just want to put that out there. But I would like to address Clerk Mackey, now I'm saying it, Clerk Mackey's 10 business days. And I would like to say that I would be happy to make that amendment if I get a second on this, to make that change, to make this 10 business days as far as being able to get that out for that amount of time. So I would like to make a motion in order to do an expedited process to, one second, where I lost my place. My apologies. Where'd it go? My hand hit it. But I would like to make a motion to post and expedite the process for hiring or potential hiring. Let me be clear.
I was just gonna say, because you might not have any qualified candidates in those 10 days, or whatever they are, and you have to extend it back out again.
Yeah.
Trustee Liddy?
If I could ask Trustee Robinson's permission to, for her blessing, to also include her original wording also said to remove
Absolutely.
the internal and external. I think that was your intent.
Internal and external posting. Absolutely. I believe that is imperative, that
Yeah,
we
I second
post
that.
it internally as well as externally.
Treasurer Miller?
Can I ask for the specific 10 business days then that the posting will?
It would go through the 25th
Okay.
of March with that correction.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Trustee Liddy?
Again, I thank the PAC for bringing this, and that's my intention originally before to Treasurer Miller, and input we've received from public, other board members to fine tune on the edges. And this is something that anyone had the opportunity, the PAC took the opportunity to present expedited timetable, just as Trustee Glass had the right to present a timetable as well, as an alternative. Everyone has, so there's no one was cutting anyone off at the knees or cutting them like a basketball block or anything, because it's all, anyone had the opportunity under a democratic process to present this. And this, as we talked in our work session, one of the key themes, I think, is that it lets the public know that this board does have muscle and ability to move when it needs to quickly. We've been, I said in the work session, we've been hampered by legal requirements that we had to protect the township and due process and employees' rights and all the other legal factors, and we worked so slowly, it pulled everybody's hair out. They're so frustrated with us. But now that we have the opportunity to act quickly and wisely, I think this is a good example of what the board can do.
Thank you. Trustee Glass?
I guess I would like to ask for some clarity on this expedited timeline as to what stakeholders will be involved in the interview process and how that will work. It's not described here in any kind of detail.
That is correct, and that's because that did not get included, and that was on me. And I will still get that information around. One of the things that I wanted to do when I said the potential for like a special meeting, the main things here in this piece was for us to post the position in order to be able to get qualified candidates and to be able to get resumes and other materials in order to be able to go through those. And then the next process would be to then bring the candidates to the board, which is what has to happen. So the narrowing down, as there could be many, many people that are qualified, or there could be none that are qualified. And if that is the case, then we go back to the drawing board again. Expediting it does not mean finalizing any of it. I just want to be clear with that. But in order for us to get to the end of a process and get to the finish line, we've got to start. So part of this is to get that from candidates and to be able to get those in to the PAC committee to be able to narrow candidates, which is here, and possibly be able to set interviews with those that are potential candidates to bring to the board. That can be whatever number that we set as a board. We can say we want to interview 2 people. We want to interview 5 people. And that process is a board decision, not necessarily a PAC decision, but we can get the candidates set for interviews. I also put on here that we can use Zoom as a resource. So if there are candidates that are not from this area, we can do that as well. So it's still a PAC. All I'm saying is for the PAC to narrow down candidates and set interviews to begin. I didn't say that the PAC is who is interviewing the candidates. That's very clear on there as far as that. And then the potential for setting special meetings, there's no date on that because that all depends on what we receive and how that goes as far as that process. And I don't have the ability to set a special meeting, so that would be on the supervisor depending on what we would have.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I think I would feel a lot more comfortable if we remove line 3 with potential to set a special meeting with qualified recommendation and contract, because that is a little ambiguous for me. It makes me a little uncomfortable. As to, for the interviews, I still want to ask, since we are moving quickly, since we are going to hopefully have good candidates in 10 days, what are we proposing for the process? Because we really should have that in place. We should be telling the public how they will be involved in the process. So I would ask this board, what is the process for interviewing the candidates?
I feel comfortable with the PAC doing the interviews, but I would like there to be involvement with the two chiefs who, as they both have extensive experience with hiring, and maybe they don't want to participate in the interviews themselves, but if they can be included in the process and the discussions to the extent to which they feel comfortable being involved in the process, I'd like it to be, because they have very relevant experience with these kinds of processes, and I think our township would benefit from their knowledge.
Right, I agree with you, but I'm not going to speak for them without, talking to them. I know they didn't want to be.
Well, as long as they're invited to participate.
Yeah. No, that's no problem. Okay. All right. Treasurer Miller.
Thank you. I sat in the audience in 2016 and was able to be a part of the interviewing process by the board for the two candidates that were brought forward. I think it may have gone through the PAC committee, but that is how I was able to be involved as a citizen or a resident of Kalamazoo Township, and I really appreciated that. I would offer that to this board as well, being able to, after we have made a decision on a couple candidates, to let them come and publicly speak or go through an interview at that point too. I don't know if that's process, if that's proper procedure, but I certainly appreciate it as a resident back in 2016.
Yeah, I want to look at our legal counsel here in a minute, because I know I've seen it both ways. I've seen it in the city of Portage. I've seen it in the city of Kalamazoo, and I've seen it in the townships, far as public involvement, far as being able to ask questions. That's where my concern is right there. Not watching it, I have no problem. My problem is if you're going to sign a board, a PAC committee selects these people, you take it to the board, and then now you pull in the outsiders to make decisions too, and I don't think that's probably normally the normal. So
I'm not sure that the intent is to allow members of the public. I'm not sure the intent is to allow members of the public to ask questions of the interviewees so much as that what you will have is an open meeting, same as you have tonight, and the ability to make comments. I think that's been the procedure. I think that's what you used when you hired your last manager, and I believe I may still have that process from your search firm. I'm pretty sure I saw that at some point, so if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And trustee Robinson, I didn't know when you were discussing the posting, were you intending to include as an amendment the addition of trustee Glass's initial verbiage that permanent superintendent position open? Did you want that to also be included? And then to put the job description on it? I just know it was discussed, and I don't want to miss it.
It is going to be the, her, hang on one second, let me pull it back up. I just lost it. So the intent was to, in the posting, which is what we discussed in the work session, the position overview, that piece, that entire piece of that position overview, and also the application materials required in that section down there as well.
And then you just need to make sure your second is okay with that.
Yes, I am.
You're right, okay.
And,
Okay, go ahead.
and then also, I do believe that trustee Glass just said that up to the potential special meeting with the selected recommendation and contract. As this is supposed to be us working together, this is just me bringing something forward and saying, okay, let's move. But I would be okay with that because, again, it says potential, and I wanted to use that word that was intentional because we may or may not have anyone. It may or may not happen. And so I didn't want to say, okay, well, we're going to have a special meeting. It could be in an open meeting. It could be a regular meeting. So I am okay if we remove that line. I would not have an issue with that.
Trustee Liddy?
I would say that just the last two words are probably the thing that maybe caused the angst, because
Recommendation and
the
contract.
potential special meeting with qualified recommendation is very general, and it shows that your intent that there may be, you're just letting people know there may be a special meeting, but the and contract gets a little bit more specific and makes people a little more uncomfortable. Maybe that just those two words could be removed.
Trustee Glass, is that?
Well, I guess I was going to offer up, if the board is amenable to it, that I had a strategy in my timeline that proposed how the interview process could go, and so my strategy was that it would start obviously with the Policy and Administration Committee, reviewing all the candidates, narrowing it down much as you have. But then the final candidates would have the opportunity to meet with the township staff and have some time with them. And that they would also have a committee that includes at least 2 township board members that are not on the PAC and 2 community members that will meet with the final candidates. And then have an open house meeting with the final candidates. So this would be a really transparent process where we're getting feedback and input from all major stakeholders in the organization. We're still using the expedited timeline. We can keep candidates anonymous until they're finalists, but they will have to face some different groups of people throughout the process and, answer to them.
I would just say that my only thing with that is when you say 2 community members, we have a community made up of 20,000+ people.
Mm-hmm.
How do you then narrow that down? How do you not create an issue with someone who may have felt that they should be the person sitting in that space versus someone else sitting in that space? So I feel like if you have, and as far as the meet and greet and that type, that is the equivalent of an open meeting instead of it having to be, it doesn't have to necessarily be, it could, the equivalent of a special meeting would be if we called a meeting in order to meet the candidates that are there, if we are going to take action on that, or if the interview process is going to be transparent and in front of residents. I think that is as transparent as you can get. Whatever community members want to come and witness that are able to do so. They're able to do it via Zoom. But I'm taken aback with trying to say 2 community members, because if I am not one of those community members, then now we open a can that we cannot close, because if I'm not the person that you selected and my views may differ, then now how do we navigate through that? So I think that to me is a can of worms that we don't want to open up, just because of what that can lead us to. So, and I would like to say that the community members are the people who voted for us to be in these positions and to be able to try our best to navigate through these situations. So I think that there has to be a level of trust there, because if you pick someone that I am not fond of, and I don't trust them either, now again, we have an issue there, and we've just opened ourselves up to something different. So I think more so in an open meeting with the final candidates, but not bringing in community members with employees and that, because I think that is just a road that we don't want to travel down.
I agree, and then I'll get back to you, because, I mean, we don't know who's going to pick them, and how's it fair to who you can tell them to pick. And I could pick them the way I want to go, and you can pick them the way you maybe want them to go. And so it's pretty hard to be biased, and still get somebody to say, well, you picked all women, you didn't pick any guys. But, you know, so I don't think we want to get in that situation. Anybody down here? Trustee Glass?
So could we just specify then that the strategy would be interview with the Policy Administration Committee, interview with Township staff, and then the open meeting with the finalists?
I'm good with that. I'm looking at my...
I look to my fellow board members, because this is not a
Right.
Trustee Robinson decision. I'm one of 7.
Right, I'm just
And
looking
so-
around here, see if there's any questions or comments.
I guess my question on that would be, the meeting with township staff, that's only for the finalists as well.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, yeah.
That's what it used to be anyway. And I would like to have Roxanne, if you could pull that up from when we hired 16 years ago. Well, not 16 years ago, whatever it was.
Feels like.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I don't have that.
No. I mean,
I'm happy to bring that.
yeah, if you could bring it up, yeah, we'll take a look at
I
it.
believe we've got that.
Okay, very good. Okay. Trustee Ludi?
I think you came up with 16 because it was 2015 we decided to go with the manager form
Yeah.
of government, and 2016 we filled that in April.
Right,
So-
exactly.
So that's why the 16 came in. But I remember too in our process, and I've got all the materials, but I do remember that we numbered the candidates. There was 15 candidates, and we numbered them. Didn't use names because we were respecting their confidentiality. They could face problems with their own work, like, "Ooh, I heard you were applying at Kalamazoo Township, but you're not happy here," like that. So we were trying to respect all that, and then we got down to maybe say like 8 candidates that we wanted to discuss more, and then we were having open discussions, open meeting, work session, I believe, and we'd say, "Oh, what I like about number 2 is that she does this and she's got this experience," or like that. So we were still maintaining confidentiality in a open format, public format. And then I think we came down to, let's pick 3 people we want to interview. And we held those interviews, and those, I believe, were public as well, like that. But when we got down to narrowing it down to the 3 people, they had to agree. You're putting your neck on the line now. Your current employer is going to know you're searching for a job. You have to agree to that, and they all did. But that's something we had to do to respect them first.
Yeah, I know we've had that before with them, where we'd have people from out of state, you know, and didn't wanted to get out, so I remember that.
Yeah.
That's about all I remember.
But the last thing I was going to say was that I'm envisioning in Trustee Robinson's motion is that the PAC will then do its work, post a job, will evaluate what comes in, and then it will, depending on what comes in, that would be part of the recommendation of how they recommend that we proceed. Because like you said, you may have 0 candidates, you may have 1,400 like that, so it'll be a totally different, anything in between will be different options it will affect your recommendation in the end.
You're probably right,
Yes.
Trustee Glass?
So I just think Yeah, that's fine. I don't think there's any harm then now, since right now what we're discussing is a timeline. I just want to be sure that involved in that timeline is some clarity to the process, that there will be an opportunity for finalists to, be public-facing before they are selected for the job, because that's part of the job, is to be a public, servant. So they should be ready to be, if you're going to be a finalist, then you need to be able to, interview for the job, or at least meet with the public before you get the job.
I don't know that we have that as part of the motion in a formal sense. However, I believe that we understand, and I think we have a common understanding of that. At least I will say that I would certainly be in favor of doing just what we described.
I have no problem amending.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can just amend it then. So
Yeah,
it's in there.
again, the point here was not to bring forth something that was just, this is what it is. The point was to bring forth a conversation, okay, we all agree that things need to be expedited, and then as far as the process, that was still in the board's hands and always was. So when it came down to the end of it, that was still on the 7 of us that sit here. That was never one person's decision.
All right?
The other thing I just want to mention is that although the supervisor appoints people to our committees, those committees have been approved by this board. So.
Thank you, that is very true. One more?
Thank you for that. I did throw a huge fit, though, with the first installation of the PAC. So,
You did, and I appreciate
And
it.
it was also resolved at one point because they didn't want to use it anymore, and then it was brought back. So, forgive me for sometimes not being,
No, and
totally.
No.
I value every voice on this board.
Yeah.
I truly do.
Can I make a motion then to amend that agenda item to state that interview process will include the PAC narrowing candidates, staff meeting with finalists, and at least some sort of open house with the finalist candidates as well before they are given a contract?
Mark?
I will second that.
Okay. Motion made, seconded, okay? So let's vote on that motion before we change our mind. How's that?
We're not going to change our mind.
Because it was
One was
a
supported.
different motion
Yeah.
and second, so we have to vote on Trustee Glass's.
First.
Amendment. Yeah. okay.
First,
Vote
yes.
on the amendment.
Yes.
So we're going to vote on the amendment here for the addition. We'll start off with Trustee Glass.
Aye.
Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Clerk Mackey.
Aye.
Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, now we can vote on the motion. Go ahead.
Did we need to vote, or was it already described that we've changed? Did you change your initial motion, or was that?
We just did that.
No, with the timeline. as
Yes.
far as-
Yes, we
okay.
amended that
Okay,
too. Yep.
perfect.
Yes. Okay? All right, we'll call the question to go ahead to request to be able to post for a superintendent's job and post timeline. And that would go from 3/22/24 to 3/25.
No, 3/12. 3/12/24 to 3/20.
Yeah, excuse me, 3/12/24
You, whoo.
to 3/25.
There we go.
24.
All right, there we go.
Can you read my own writing? Thank you. Okay. And we'll start off with Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Mackey.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Glass.
No.
And I'm an aye. Thank you. Okay, the next one here is, 4 years ago, we had this parking lot redone, both police side and fire side. Excuse me, both police side and administration side. And so we've gone 4 years since it was done. The company that did it before was our lowest bid then, and I couldn't get anybody else to want to give me a timeline to bid on this, but that company did. And their bid was $7,824, and it's for crack filling all the cracks which we got a ton of them up here. Double coating the ceiling, seal it twice, and then restriping the parking lot both sides. As we can see now, we don't know where the parking lines are. You can't park in them. So I would like to go ahead and move that forward if we could, and so we can get that on their schedule. And they did say they would try to do it on the weekends when we were not in session here. So they could do one side, then do the other side.
I support, but I have a question too.
Sure.
So our agenda request form has a finance cost of $3,100.
That was for just the first part of it.
But that's the second coating.
That was for the $3,100. Actually, it's $3,225. Was for crack fill and hop, pour rubber. That was it, and one coating. So it was one coating over the top. This one here was was two coatings over the top, and seal spray coating, which is addition $3,164, which brings it to $7,824.
Could you say that again for me? Because I'm looking at their proposal, and their proposal has a cost of $7,800, and then it has an option to do the second coating of sealer.
There was two options here.
Okay.
Option 2 and option 1. Okay, the option 1 was actually 3,000. Excuse me, that's that one thing. Option 1. Man, I don't even see the price up there. That was a linearly foot on top. On this side here. Yeah, the first one was to clean, crack, fill, and fill, and it said spray and stuff, but that didn't make any sense either.
That's the $7,824.
Yeah, that's
And then the option 2, or the option to apply the second coat of sealer.
Yeah.
That adds an additional
Oh, that adds additional $3,164. So that would bring us to $9,900
I got 10,988 if I'm doing my math right.
10,988.
Yeah.
Well, you.
Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. $10,988.
I'm doing the math.
I think
I'm doing the math.
I think two coatings will make it last longer. I mean, if we last for 4 years now, hopefully we'd last enough till we get out of this building.
Yeah.
You know, but that's. So I'd like to make the motion that we go ahead and do the second coating, which makes it $10,898.
$10,988.
Huh?
$10,988.
Oh, he said 98.
Nope, 10,988 according to my
Yeah, I
iPhone.
got it. 10,988. Okay. You second the motion, okay, any discussion?
No, thank you for doing that, because I just want to make sure we can move forward. There'll be no question about what the cost is. So thank you and John Van Giesen for doing the homework.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the question. We'll start off with Trustee Glass.
Aye.
Trustee Ludy.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Clerk Mackey.
Aye.
Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you. And the next one here, and Steve, you might be able to talk on this. This is about the grant, if I'm on the right page here,
Yeah.
that we got from Danielle from McKinnis and Sons for $20,000 for planning and zoning work, along with housing work. So you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. Our township planner, Danielle Bouchard from McKenna, that's the planning service that we contract with, took the initiative to seek a grant from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, or MISTA, and that was the grant is to assist the adoption of land use policies, zoning text amendments, and similar actions that encourage increasing housing supply and affordability. And part of the details of the grant application that she made, again, is to address the zoning text amendments that promote housing, affordable housing availability. Also, a corridor improvement authority, a CIA, to evaluate the pros and cons and applicability for the township. That's something that's been discussed in Manager Mitchell's original contract, one of the original jobs. So this will kick the can further down the road and improve that, and also a strategic rezoning study and a redevelopment-ready community certification, which makes the township, which is a practice the township already does, but it makes the township officially certified, and that attracts economic development. And as Fire Marshal Kowalski had said earlier, it also includes I believe it might be the proper word, tactile map, so a visually impaired resident can, with just tactfully with their fingers, can interpret the zoning and the zoning areas of the township, which is pretty awesome because you can't explain things on a map to some of our residents, and this would be a way to solve that problem. And so I guess I would make a motion to request approval from the Township Board to authorize the grant funding secured from the MISHDA to assist with the adoption of land use policies, zoning text amendments, and similar actions to encourage increasing housing supply and affordability.
Support.
Okay, motion made and supported. Do I have any questions or comments?
I have a comment, and it's somewhat related. As you were talking about the site impaired zoning map, I just wanted to mention a recent experience that I had, not regarding zoning, but regarding elections. We have a requirement whenever we get a document back from a voter to verify that their signature matches what's in our voter file. And there's ways to cure that signature so that we can ensure that that person is who they are. And I had a resident that was pretty upset because his signature didn't match. And I tried to talk to him on the phone, and he hung up on me. And I called him back because somebody else in his household had a signature that didn't match, and he didn't want to talk to me. But we talked through, and he told me that he was blind. And I offered to come over to his house, and so I could ensure that, because he said he couldn't get here. And I offered that, and in the end, he ended up taking me up on my offer, and I stopped by his home and spoke with his family, and they were really pleased that I took the time to do that. And I'm not doing that, I'm not mentioning it to pat myself on the back or anything like that. I'm bringing it up because it just wasn't something I was thinking about. And so when I initially had the conversation with this gentleman on the phone, and I knew he was frustrated about his signature not matching, it didn't occur to me that he might have other things going on which could be making this difficult for him. And so anything that we can do to try to make our township operations more accessible, whether it be through having a site impaired zoning map, or going the extra mile for somebody who doesn't have a signature that matches, or making sure that our website is accessible. These are really important things, and not something we think about all the time, but everything that we do should all come into consideration. So sorry to go off on that. Maybe I could have saved that for my board member comment, but
That's fine, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor for request to go ahead and approve the MSDA Housing Readiness Grants. All in favor? Well, again, let's do roll call vote. We'll start off with Trustee Glass.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Clerk Mackey.
aye.
Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you. Okay, the next one is first reading for the amendment code for the misdemeanor ordinance and litter. Madam Attorney?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can they hear me?
No?
It's not working.
Your mic is not working well.
And they're all on too.
They adopted a code of criminal or misdemeanor ordinances so that the township police department can allow individual prosecutions rather than having to always go through the county prosecutor's office. The county prosecutor still does felonies, but now police department's able to go through their local prosecuting attorneys and probably, hopefully getting better service that way for misdemeanors. When we did that, we accidentally took the litter ordinance, which is your ordinance enforcement officer's favorite ordinance, and we changed it to a misdemeanor, which gave him a slight palpitation, probably bigger than that. And so this ordinance is to change that. So what I did was I went and took the state statute for littering, and that is a misdemeanor, and I copied it into the criminal code of ordinances, and I reinstated the litter ordinance as a municipal civil infraction. Then trustee Ludi noted that we needed to make a change to that, and it was too late to do it, to get into your packets, but I did provide to you what we did. So, the litter ordinance that's now going to be back to a municipal civil infraction after this is adopted. You have to have 2 readings. 350.03, which is where you saw it. Section C2, we are going to change the wording that says monthly public litter collection, which no longer occurs, to weekly garbage collection by the Charter Township Forest licensed agent. It's just to confirm what it is that we've already known. We've made this change for a weekly trash pickup years ago, and we just never changed the litter ordinance. So as long as we had the opportunity, I just put that in here. So that would renumber the proposed ordinance number 640 by adding a section 3 and renumbering it so your last section would be 6.
So what, do we approve first reading the 640, or do we?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, I'm looking, any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion.
Huh?
I said I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I move that we accept the proposed ordinance number 640, amending the Code of Criminal Ordinances litter section and reinstating ordinance number 350, litter as a municipal civil infraction.
Support.
The motion made and seconded?
Are you accepting my,
I'm sorry, with
Red
the
line.
with the red lined edit.
Okay, we good? Or do we have to read this here? Good. I think we're good, okay? So we'll just say all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried, thank you. Okay, the next one is the request to reinstate the township newsletter. Ashley?
So it's been a while since we've had a township newsletter. One thing that I heard in reaching out to a lot of different community members is that they'd like to see a newsletter reinstated. I appreciated the gentleman's comments earlier about not making it so frequent, because I can see that it could get stale really easily, and it would also be hard to get enough to put in there and keep people on that timeline. So I would move to reinstate the township newsletter on a quarterly basis, posting in collaboration with department heads and board members, and posting on the township website until there is a delegated staff member to do so.
Support.
Who is the support over here? Okay. Any questions or comments, Steve?
Well, I think also we heard Tony Kennedy also say endorse keeping this task in-house with administrative staff, and I think that's totally appropriate, because I just having this item on the board's agenda gives me a little bit of angst, because it's the board getting in administrative staff's lane, I believe, because this is already a task of identified. Remember, I've talked about how it kind of fell off a practice of being done because of the list of email list for electronic distribution was lost. But I think the board has spoken loud and clear, and the the community survey has also emphasized the need for continuing this. I think we're all in agreement. But I would not be in favor of having a single board member be the editor and working on this. This is actually an administrative function, and we just need to, maybe perhaps through the supervisor, communicate that to the board member, to our employee who's already part of her job description to be able to continue doing that. And then I think it would get further oxygen with a new supervisor, supporting that, because that's literally in the job description of the supervisor, if I remember right.
I think one of the things to it, and I think Ashley's got some good ideas. I think one of the things too, if we could have each of the board members or whoever wants to do it, just come up with what you think and then send on to Lisa, and then we'll approve it. I mean, that'd be a better way. That way we're staying in the lanes. But just, I mean, your ideas are great. I'm just wrong.
So how about I amend this agenda item to state, let's reinstate the newsletter, and I'm happy to help, instigate collecting materials from whoever to make it happen and send them to Lisa if you'd like to delegate that task.
Yeah, thank you.
Why did you have to? I guess I'm not understanding why it was necessary to amend it as it read. It was in collaboration with department heads, board members, and delegated to the next, as you stated here, manager or person or township staff.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have to amend it.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, you're probably right. I'm gonna have to
So can we reinstate the newsletter?
You still have my support.
So, just for my understanding, Trustee Robinson, are you saying just the motion is to approve reinstating the newsletter?
Yes.
But taking the word out, a single board member? Because right now it says approve Trustee Glass reinstating the newsletter. So, because right now that's the conflict I'm having where.
I think maybe reinstate the newsletter with board members' input. So how's that? Does that make any difference or
I
no?
agree with the supervisor's suggestion that then we send our suggestions I have for the last 14 years, 15 years.
Pictures of the parks and everything else, right?
Yeah, and for example, I sent pictures of the parks today to the person in charge of that, staff member, then posted it on Facebook. And so we have a system that then and sometimes my suggestions are rejected. And I just say, okay, because that's not my job to run over their job. And so I like the idea of, that we reinstate the newsletter, but that we direct our input, like anyone else would make their suggestion to staff for their ideas as well.
Okay. So do you want, I
that
guess
good?
they want you to.
I would just also like us to clarify with the motion itself, how frequently. So if we're doing it quarterly, I'd like that to be put into the motion.
Okay.
On a quarterly basis, you could probably just add.
Is that what you had?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I still support it.
So we can go ahead and vote on it, right? If we're done? Okay. We're approving to approve the request to reinstate the township newsletter quarterly. And we'll start off with Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Mackey.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Well, I said Trustee Mackey. Yeah, I'm sorry. Treasurer Mackey. Clerk Mackey. Clerk Mackey. Okay.
You want to do a job switch?
Trustee Robinson.
I'm still an aye.
Okay, you still an aye? Okay. Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Glass.
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you. All right.
Goodness gracious.
Now we're down to a request to approve the PAC committee to immediately seek a qualified and competent intern township manager while searching for a permanent township superintendent or manager. And that was yours, Ashley, I think, from me.
Yeah, I guess, Mr. Supervisor, since my agenda items were intentionally put in this order, they become moot at this point, so we should remove them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So that takes care of H and I, correct? So we're down to 10A, and that's the treasurer thing. Trustee Ludi, you want to tell the treasurer what your problem is with the treasurer's report?
Yeah. I started to make it sound so dramatic, but one of the things I just wanted to have a discussion and make sure that, and give the treasurer an opportunity to explain this to me, because I see on the one-page treasurer's report for January 2024, it has 2 items. It's a listing of CDs and the maturity dates, and 2 of them matured one matured at the end, beginning of November, and one matured at the end of December, and I can understand why the one in December is included in the January 2024 report, because there's kind of a gap, there's what's the proper term, where it takes a while for the report, so it has a little bit, sometimes a little slightly dated information, but I couldn't understand why there is in the January 2024 report, there is a CD listed that expired November 7th, 2023, and that's $500,000 worth. I'm assuming it's rolled over and everything's fine and we're earning 5.15% or whatever the going rate is right now, but
Yes.
okay.
I apologize for that. And, yeah, I apologize. Yes.
Okay,
Everything has been rolled, and
Okay.
The clerk and the deputy treasurer have signed all the CDs that have come due and matured and reinvested.
That's what I figured would happen. I just wanted to understand it completely, so thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay. All right, now we're down to a board member report.
Do we need to take a vote to?
Amend that? Yes, I'm
to
sorry.
accept
the treasurer's report.
Yep. Okay.
Or not.
Or not. You want to make the motion, Trustee Ludi?
Sure, I move receipt of the treasurer's report for January 2024.
Support.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Start off with a roll call vote. We'll start off with Trustee Glass.
Aye.
Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Clerk Mackey.
Aye.
Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you. All right, now we're down to board member reports. To start with Trustee Glass.
Thank you. I just wanted to give an update from the Parks Committee. We're slightly behind from what we had thought we would be before, but we are planning an open house for April 13th, I believe, which there'll be more information to come out about that. A chance for the public to kind of come and see what we've been working on and all the different options for things and give some feedback. So I'll be sure to send that to you right away when we determine location and time. And then we hope to have the actual recommendation for moving forward to the May 13th work session. So look for that to come to you then. And I just really wanted to say a big thank you to Rosemary Knox for all of her work to move us forward, to David Combs and to Treasurer Miller. But Rosemary has done a lot of stuff for us to get a lot of pictures, move us forward on getting some easy fixes for a couple of the playgrounds. So it's been really fun to see just a little bit of progress made and to go through the process with them. It's been really neat and I really enjoyed it. I am enjoying it. I believe that we will have the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County join our April meeting. I can't remember if it is.
It's the 14th, I believe.
Yeah.
It's on a Monday, so.
The 15th.
15th, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you have things you would like them to discuss, you can either send those, I'm happy to share them, or I'm sure Supervisor Martin would, and community members, if you have specific road commission issues you'd like to discuss, be sure to send those to us too, because they're happy to go over whatever we would like. And also just give a kind of an updates and overviews for the organization. And then otherwise, the only last thing I had was kind of fun. Obviously, it's Women's History Month this month. We have the, as a reminder, the first majority female board to sit on the township. So that's something cool. And so I wanted to say happy belated Women's Day, which was March 8th. It was originally recognized in 1977, and the occasion has its roots in labor movements of the 20th century. One of my personal favorites or heroes, I guess, is a woman named Mary Parker Follett. She was a leading voice in 1920s for leadership and management, and in a field that was at the time dominated by men, and she's still recognized as sort of the mother of management today, even though she's been sort of lost along the way in some of the literature. So one of my favorite things that I found that she says is she advocated for a concept of power with rather than power over, and suggested that as long as power dynamics remained between political system and public systemic problems, or I'm sorry, as long, I said that wrong, okay. She advocated for a concept of power with rather than power over, suggesting that you should work in a collaborative way, and that integration of things are better than, doing it all yourself. And she was a big advocate for public input and public participation. And so I guess I just take a lot from that sitting up here on the board. It really means a lot to me to work with the public to get things done. I try very hard to hear a lot of different voices, and I know that a vote is sort of like, I get the perspective that it is, trust in us to make decisions, but I very much like doing it in a way that where I feel like I'm making it with the people rather than for the people. So that's where I come from a lot in what I do, and I hope that shows.
Trustee Luddy?
Well, thank you. Last Tuesday was a busy night. At 6 o'clock, there were two public forums. One was the anticipated roundabout for G Avenue and Squires, and that meeting was going on at the Cornerstone Church on Drake. And then at the same time at Hillside Middle School, there was a public meeting about the water main projects and the water leads that will branch off of that and replace lead pipes when they're found. So a great improvement to our water quality system, and that affects portions of Arlington, Berkeley, Clarendon, I think Dartmouth, Commonwealth, Pinehurst, Campbell, Wilmette, and Waverly, and that. So those are the streets. It's a big section of the eastern portion of Westwood neighborhood, and it was a hard meeting in that there was a lot of loss. There were many 80-year-old trees were cut down because they had been planted 80 years ago over the water main. And, so for multiple generations, 3 or 4 generations, wasn't that a beautiful tree? But not thinking that somebody back in 1940 planted a tree, typically a silver maple, but occasionally something even nicer like a red oak that's only half of its life, or a third of its life. And those trees had to be cut down in order to get access to the water mains and to do the repairs. Not all trees were cut down, just the ones that were in the way. And that was a real harsh shock for a lot of residents, because physically it looks and feels different on their street. But by the end, we all commiserated together and figured out that in the end, this is a larger good for improving water quality in those areas. And again, that project goes all the way through in the fall. There's going to be a lot of work, and the Prina Newhoff is the township's engineer, but also they're working for the city water department, and they're posting all this information updated daily on our webpage, so you can find out exactly what street they're working on. But one thing I wanted to share, the first stage of the work will involve West Main Street. So if you're going westbound on West Main, so you're heading toward Drake, the northern lane, the right lane, will be closed for a number of weeks, so they can get access to tie in the water off of there, and then that will be sealed up, and the barricades will be removed, and then they'll start working more internally into the neighborhood. But that's something you're first going to see, some closures on West Main, on that right lane going westbound. So I mentioned the improvements, and others have mentioned Rosemary Knox's good work in improving two components of the Lakewood and the Stroud, or the Wilson Recreation Area playground equipment that needed some updates. And then our last thing I wanted to share was that the Planning Commission met here last Thursday night, and it was just another one of those examples where we came into the meeting with a totally different idea of how it left, because the Planning Commission, the developer, developer, the planner, all the people that were in the room had an open mind, and we figured out, we solved problems that originally this item was going to be tabled, and we ended up approving it because of the open-minded people working together in discussion. So what we did is for Azon Properties, or Azon USA, which is located at 2130 Ravine Road. That's the north side of the road on Ravine Road between Nichols and Douglas. And we held a special use hearing and approved a special use with contingencies, and then approved a site plan with contingencies to allow that business to expand, to demolish an existing building and build a brand new headquarters. And then it brings, I believe, roughly a dozen new employees to that work site. So that's, again, another example of the Planning Commission's fine work to promote economic development. And along with that is, with new developments, we require sidewalks when we can. And this is a section of the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail that is in the road. So it's the least desirable part of a beautiful Kalamazoo River Valley system. And that's part of our non-motorized transportation master plan. Is one of the main goals is to promote that, because it's our residents have access to that, can travel from Northwood, Eastwood, Westwood, and get to the fairgrounds in Lakewood. Not as easily, but at least 3 neighborhoods are connected by that. And so it won't be an actual 10-foot wide path, but it will be a 6-foot wide asphalt kind of sidewalk / path. And so it allows people to get off the road for nearly 100 feet. And then this school's bus garage is a little bit further east toward the city, already has a pathway there. So we're filling in the gaps of the missing teeth of that, and eventually we'll get all the way toward Deja Vu, where it's the city of Kalamazoo, and we'll have a connected pathway eventually to get people safely to enjoy miles and miles of more of the River Valley Trail. So just wanted to share that good news.
Okay, I'm just going to add 2 things that you added. One is, first of all, the road closure on H Avenue and Drake Road. That road is closed up there. You get up to that corner, it's closed. Also, Barney Road, starting tomorrow, going up the hill, will be closed. So just FYI that both those roads are being closed down. So watch when you go around. I'm just going to add another thing about their school thing, about the trees and about the water lines. Sometimes it works really well working with the water department, but it works really well working with the road commission. And Ashley had brought that up. I work pretty well with the road commission. When they were going to do the sewer lines on Pinehurst, they were going to go in and take all the trees, the city water was going to take all the trees all over the boulevard and put the main right down the middle of Pinehurst. And I said, well, unless you guys want to get voted back in office again, I don't think you want to do that. There's got to be an alternative way. So now they're not going to do that. They're going to leave the trees there, and they're going to snake that stuff back in there. But that's working with the road commission. They go back to the water department and say, no, let's do it this way. So it does work. It does work. Same thing on trees. We had a guy call me. His tree was 300 years old, and it's in the right of way. It's on the other side of the sidewalk towards the house, but it's in the right of way. But it's huge. It's a healthy tree, and we got them to save that tree. So the county roads did save that tree for us. So they do help us out in a lot of aspects. So that's all I had, Steve. Mark.
Could I ask, was that the one on Commonwealth that you were referring to?
Commonwealth Place, yes.
Yes, yeah.
On the north side of the road.
Good. If I may be permitted to, I will once again praise Trustee Glass's work ethic. And we do not always agree, but I always appreciate her initiative on this board. And I just wanted to, I will not be dissuaded from saying that again. The Township Climate Committee has been on hiatus for several months. We've struggled, frankly, to find projects that are within the scope that we can carry out. Our plan in some ways is very ambitious, but again, we have struggled for operationalizing most of what is in it. I came across, well, I had a presentation that's part of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. And one of our members was gave a presentation on planning, and this is a book called Climate Action Planning, A Guide to Creating Low-Carbon Resilient Communities. So I've purchased that for the whole committee, and we're going to read that, I hope. I am, and we'll see whether this can give us some guidance in coming up with a plan that we can actually put into action. So that's upcoming. I just wanted to also say that we don't have a budget for the Climate Committee, so I've bought these myself just in case you thought I was wasting township money. That's all.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, Trustee Robinson.
So, of course, the PAC committee met. You saw a lot of our work here tonight at this meeting, along with the work of Trustee Glass and other board members. So I want to thank all the board members for our efforts. I also want to thank every one of you for being passionate. We all have a desire to do better for the community in which we all reside and live, and it comes across in the way in which we fight for the things that we believe in, and I appreciate that about each and every one of you. So I want to put that out there. I also want to thank the staff that are the heartbeat of the township. Believe it or not, they keep everything running. And when you come in and pay a tax bill, or you come in and do other business, take a moment and recognize them and thank them for all that they do, because they truly keep us going. The residents, I want to thank you all for being involved and for using your voices. Whether you agree with us or you do not, we don't always agree with each other, but every voice is necessary. We all need each other in order to move forward. We all need one another to make our community better. So I want to say thank you to that. And it's also that time of year where parks and outside and all of that is major. So for those working on the park projects and the playgrounds and those things, thank you all so much, because I'm seeing a lot of kids out there as the sun is starting to come out. So are the kids and the parents, and I think it's beautiful to get outside. When I was a kid, I spent all my time outside. So I just want to thank everybody for their continued effort in us moving forward. Again, we don't all agree, but we all agree that we are trying to do better, and we want to see better for this township moving forward. And so I think as long as we keep that at the nucleus, we'll be all right. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Clerk Mackey.
Okay, I have several comments. I wanted to start, we haven't had a meeting since our last election, so I wanted to take an opportunity to thank everyone who helped to make this election happen. Many members of the staff here facilitated this process. And I won't name them all, but I did want to give a special consideration to Barb Blankenship and Monica Kalupa for their very long hours. I really appreciate them. Also to John Vandegiesen and our maintenance and Larry. And that's not all people, but I figured I would just give shouts out to those who bared a large brunt of the work. And I also wanted to thank those of you who have come and helped us to work as election inspectors, and also members of the board who worked as election inspectors. So we really appreciate your efforts, and we are continuously seeking election inspectors for the August and November elections. So if you're interested, we've increased the pay. Now election inspectors will make $15 an hour, and chairs are paid at a rate of $18 an hour. So if you're interested in working on in either the August or November election or both, feel free to reach out to me at clerk@ktwp.org or to call 269-381-8082. And now I'll move on. I wanted to first mention when we made the comment about the road commission presentation, you had said it was April 15th. That's not the date of the board meeting. It's April 8th and April 22nd, because there's a lot of, I think the day or the month starts on April 1st, if I'm correct. So I wasn't sure which meeting that was.
We'll take a look at tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, first thing.
But I also, while we're on the conversation of the road commission, I did want to share an update that's relevant. Starting, let's see here. Starting, this work says tree removal is going to begin on March 11th on Squires Drive. So that'll be closed. Squires Drive will be closed to through traffic during this project, and the detour route is Ravine Road to Drake Road. So that it says the start date is March 1st, and the end date is August 9th. And the project includes construction of a roundabout at the intersection of Drake Road at Squires Drive. Squires Drive will also be reconstructed with shoulder widening and drainage improvements. Moving on, since we just had the time change, I wanted to mention how important it is that we all change our batteries in our smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. I know that I've personally benefited from having working detectors before, where I had a scare as a child with carbon monoxide. So it is really important. And recently, our fire department responded to an emergency at my next door neighbor's home. And I just wanted to thank them, especially our fire marshal, who I saw at the scene, for their hard work. And I know that I don't get to see you in action a lot, but it was really just, it made me very proud. So thank you. I think that's all I got.
Treasurer Miller.
Thank you. I want to thank the residents for showing up. I hope you continue to show up. Attending the work sessions is where the work gets done, where you get most informed. So I hope you continue to come and let your voice be heard, working in collaboration with the board members and the residents. That's how good things happen. And I just want to again thank the board, the PAC committee, for working really hard to put a superintendent job description together in a short amount of time, with the additions of Trustee Glass's recommendations. So I'm very pleased that we are going to be posting this job. We're going to be opening it up for 10 business days. Hopefully we get some really good candidates and we can move forward. And I just see great things in Kalamazoo Township's future. So I'm excited. Let's go. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna thank Fire Marshal Kowalski for using his truck and the trailer that he uses to get our stuff back, all of our boxes back. And I also want to thank PMN for always recording our meetings. And they always do record our meetings, but sometimes they usually don't record our work sessions. They record the regular meetings, and usually the work sessions are always done on Zoom, along with the regular meeting. So that's the way it's been. But I want to thank everybody that came out tonight too. And we all have a job to do no matter where it's at, if it's here or away. We all try to do the best we can. We have a staff here. I always used to think about it when we used to go to MTA a lot. We could go to MTA no matter where it was in Detroit or if it was Traverse City, wherever it was, and we could be gone those 7, 8 days, whatever they were, knowing things in Kalamazoo would operate just fine, and we're always only a phone call away because this township runs with the people that are here. It don't run by the board. The board sets direction for them. And so whatever we could do to increase that, increase the ability to get some unity back in this board. I think we've had a real rough, especially this last year here. But I do want to say one thing. In the assessing department, we did hire a person in the assessing department that wants to be an assistant assessor. So she wants to go get her license. So that's going to help us out. So when our assessor decides that he wants to retire, we might have somebody that could move right on up in it because she's a lot younger than he is. I won't tell him that, but she is. And we actually do this in our finance department also. Malka, who is our treasurer, she does our finance stuff, and as we're changing the numbers, as the state requires us to change the numbers for how we process all of our bills. There are different numbers now. She's been helping us do that. She's getting trained to do a lot of other stuff too. So thanks to our treasurer and the help that we have here, and so we're moving right along in that department there. It's been 11 months. It's going to be 12 months in April that we have been without the manager. This board has asked many, many times to try to get this thing so we can get it resolved. Because we've had many, many citizens say, why are we still doing this? Well, legally there's things that we have to do and the things that we can't do. So a lot of times we get right down to push and shove when it gets down to the back end of this thing. And then once we do that, then we try to make a move to try to get some people in here. So thank you all for coming. And so now we turn over to the attorney's report.
Okay, we got new floodplain maps from FEMA for the entire county. So you are going to get for first reading, a new floodplain ordinance next month, or next board meeting. That'll be ordinance number 639, if you're paying attention. I heard about that before I had to make the other change. So.
Did you have maps for us, or did you get them just for you?
What? They're for the whole county.
Well, you said you had maps. I have not seen anything yet, so.
Well, I guess that's the thing. You also have to agree, there's also an agreement with CABA that will have to be filled out. I already sent that to them. It's a resolution. And the reason you have to have this agreement with CABA is because it's a separate governmental entity. So if you just had an employee, that would be a different kind of agreement. I've got that all drafted up. It's at the state and at CABA right now for approval, and then I'll get it to you next month.
Okay.
Also, Attorney Seth Coaches has sent me this notice regarding a proposed agreement with the Department of Justice resolving an ADA complaint, and that has been provided to, I believe he met with Clerk Mackey and with Trustee Moody regarding that. He's going to come and present to you the proposal, and hopefully everybody can buy into that, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve that. This was a sidewalk ADA complaint.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that, because one of the things I did send to him when Trustee Ludi got all the done with Ryan, as far as where the new sidewalks we were going to put in. So I threw all the sheets and sent those right to him so he could use those too. So any more information we could give to help them out. And of course, if you guys have been down Lake Street and saw all the new sidewalks on Lake Street, that's a big improvement down there too. So we're trying to get every road we do put up sidewalks in and put ADA ramps. That's automatic.
And then this will require you to appoint an ADA coordinator for the township, so I'm sure you'll be taking volunteers.
Oh, yeah, I'm a lot.
I have a question for the attorney. 'Cause,
Okay. I thought he was volunteering.
No. No.
Go ahead.
CABA, the Kalamazoo Area Building Authority, the board meets March 19th, and if it takes board action, I just want to let you know that date, because we might be able to squeeze it in and add it to the agenda there.
Great. I did send it to Mike Allwine and also to the CABA attorney, and this doesn't have to be done until July 31st.
Okay.
So we're going to be ahead of the game.
Okay.
I hope. For once, right?
Yep. Is that it, Madam Attorney?
That's all?
Okay, this is the second time for public comment. You have 3 minutes. I know, Mike, you had your hand up. Come up to the podium.
Mike Seals, 3743 Gull Road. I just would like you to explain to the audience and to the public what CABA is and what they do. Because when they hear the word CABA, nobody knows what that means.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. I'll say I did sense that, and I said CABA, the Kalamazoo Area Building Authority, and CABA is a separate authority that acts as the township's building authority. And they don't just do that for Kalamazoo Township, but they do that for Comstock Township, for the city of Parchment, for Pine Grove Township, and the village of Richland and the township of Richland. So that's a way that instead of each municipality having their own separate building authority, it made it much more, years ago, made it much more efficient by having this authority provide that, to complete that task for, what did I say, 5 different municipalities? So, and they're located on Nazareth Road near Mike's house.
Yeah. And they all have their own, electrical inspectors or mechanical inspectors, so they're shared amongst the 5 municipalities. Right.
Thank you.
Tony Kennedy, 1114. So when you were talking about PMN, so one of my requests this week was to go on Facebook, and you are on Facebook now. So they have live streaming of the township meetings. So I'm really excited about that. We were the first 2 on there. Yeah.
What is it? What is it under? Do you know the heading?
It's under. You're not taking that off of my 3 minutes, right?
Oh, no, because you got to look through your glasses. Go ahead.
It says Public Media Network is live now, March 11th.
Okay, good.
Kalamazoo Charter Township Board of Trustees.
Thank you.
So there you go.
Okay, start over your 3 minutes.
Thank you. So you're really being watched now. So thank you, Public Media Network, for that. I was really happy to attend a worksheet session today, and I wondered if you would consider one on the second meeting that you have before then. Just throwing it out there for public consumption. I'm sure you've thought about that, and there's some reason why you have one on this one and not the next meeting. So I'm hoping that maybe in conversation you guys would think about that, because you can get so much more done like you did today, having those conversations and then coming and then just kind of rolling out the agenda. Arthur Avenue, Lake Arthur. I did see somewhere where Joanna said that the project would be sometime this year.
Yes.
So we're going on maybe 5 years, sometime this year. I'm just letting you know. I'm important, Arthur Avenue is important too. So, as it gets warmer, that's going to be a breeding ground for bugs. And you know, we already have that issue, so I would prefer not to have it further. And then speed limit signs. Where the heck did the speed limit signs go on East Main?
You mean the regular signs themselves?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest, I used my speed limit sign to turn onto my street. And they're gone. So I just kind of wondered.
They're probably gonna put new ones up, I would think.
I'm just letting you know that they're gone and no one knew about it.
Do you know if there's just that one or is there more?
There were two,
Can you give me the locations and I can check on them for you?
like Arthur and East Main,
Okay.
just because that's where I would turn. I knew when I saw the sign I had to turn left.
Probably somebody hit them.
I don't know. I would have noticed that though, since I kind of use that as a landmark every day.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering that. So last thing, I just really want to appreciate all the work that all of you have done, including Trustee Glass. I know that we can't all win all fights, but I appreciate the spirit in which everybody encompassed what you guys all voted on, or the work that each one had done. And, you know, that's really an important process. So thank you, and I hope you have a good evening.
Thank you. Next, please.
All right, I'll be quick. I know we all want to go home. David Combs, 2316 Brook Drive. First, as Clerk Mackey said, thank you to all the staff and volunteers as well who worked the election. Barbara Blankenship in particular is someone who I got to observe work in the polls. And if she's any representation of the whole team, you know, they're superheroes. Spending days, plural, not just election day, without sleep and basically living in this building. So thank you all. You make democracy work. On the note of democracy, I did want to sort of reflect on this meeting, a couple of specific things that I hope you, the board, will consider moving forward, because as the center of democracy here in this room, transparency is one of the most important values I think that this board and our municipal government can demonstrate. So I just want to name what wasn't named in this meeting, that you voted today to fundamentally change the staffing structure of the township. I'm not here to make a comment for or against or any commentary on that, but it's something that happened by approving the job description. And yet that is a change, a significant change, that will not appear in any township record save this job description. It won't appear in a motion, it won't appear in meeting minutes. In order to find the record of this change in staffing structure, I would have to know to look for this job description specifically, which means I would have to know that the change happened already. Transparency would call for us to put these things to paper and to take these actions intentionally. And then just two other quick notes. Trustee mentioned this evening that, you know, evidence of democracy in action tonight is that, you know, the proposals around the timeline and process for hiring a superintendent and, well, the timeline and process were in the agenda packet, and everyone on the board had the opportunity to propose and introduce alternate timelines should they choose to do that. And while that is true on paper, there were some hiccups there that I hope we can learn from moving forward. The agenda, I already commented on sort of the timeline of receiving that, but in the process that was ultimately amended and proposed along with the timeline, the content wasn't there. There were just a couple of bullets, and actually the meat of the content was introduced for the first time in this meeting. And I say that to say it's something I've observed over time, that I don't think it was unique to this motion in particular, but remember that in government more is more. The more we can add, the more meat we can add to our motions, the more specificity we can add, the better, both for you all to consider and debate, but also for us, the residents, to have an understanding of what we're really talking about in practice and what the implications might be. And then on that note, that everyone had the opportunity to propose an alternate timeline, an alternate process, I just want to name again that one trustee did, Trustee Glass did, and while I'm not here to commentate or comment on which timeline or what timeline was passed, I want to point again back to the agenda and just say that this is a case study in the importance of the structure of these meetings and our agendas, and that we can and did in this case significantly influence the outcome by the order that we stacked our agenda items. So please consider that in the future as well, especially in sensitive situations like this. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience, please? Anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom that would like to speak to the board, please unmute yourself. You'll have 3 minutes to talk to the board. Seeing none.
Okay, we adjourned at 9:32. Thanks, folks.